This story explores mature emotional themes such as family dynamics, identity, and boundaries. There is no explicit content, but viewer discretion is advised. All characters are adults. There are moments in life that split time in half, before and after. That Tuesday evening was one of them. I had just gotten home from work, still in my blazer, when I heard the shower running upstairs. My wife, Mel, had texted earlier that she'd be working late, again, which meant the only other person in the house was her daughter, Tessa. 22, college senior, and home for spring break. We'd gotten along surprisingly well since Mel and I married last year. Tessa was sharp, fiercely independent, and not the type to overshare. So when she asked if she could crash at our place for a week to get away from dorm life, I didn't think twice. I just said sure, as long as she didn't mind sharing a roof with her boring stepdad. I was halfway through reheating some leftover pasta when I heard her come down the stairs. I turned to say hey, and then I froze. Tessa was standing in the doorway of the kitchen, wrapped in a towel, steam still clinging to her skin like mist. Her expression wasn't flirtatious or playful. It was serious. Intense. Almost vulnerable. "Hey," she said, her voice low. "Can I talk to you?" I blinked, trying to process the words. Sure. You want to maybe put on some clothes first?" I tried to keep my tone light, but something in her eyes told me this wasn't just about comfort or modesty. She didn't budge. She just nodded slowly, then turned and walked back upstairs. I exhaled, heart thudding harder than I wanted to admit. Not because of what I saw, but because of what I felt in that moment. Something had shifted, and I didn't know what it meant yet. When she came back down, this time fully dressed in jeans and a hoodie, she looked like a different person. Not just physically, but emotionally. Like she'd stepped out of the shower and shed more than just soap and steam. She sat across from me at the kitchen island and said, "I need to tell you something, and I can't say it to my mom." "Not yet." I nodded, already knowing this was going to be bigger than I was ready for. She took a breath. Then another. Her fingers trembled slightly as she picked at the frayed edge of her sleeve. "I'm not who you think I am," she said quietly. "Not completely." The words hung there, heavy and loaded, pulling the room into silence. My mind raced through 100 possibilities, none of them landing. I didn't interrupt. I just waited. "I've been carrying something for a long time," she said, barely above a whisper now. "And I didn't plan to tell anyone. But then I saw you tonight, and I realized I trust you more than I thought." I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just looked at her, really looked, and saw the fear behind her eyes. Not of me, but of what she was about to reveal. Whatever it was costing her everything just to say it out loud. And then she said it. 7 words that changed everything. But I'll save those for part 2. She looked right at me and said, "I think I'm in love with someone I shouldn't be." I didn't speak. Didn't move. My mind reeled, trying to make sense of it. Who? Why me? Why now? But what struck me most wasn't the confession itself. It was the way she said it. Not dramatic. Not defiant. Just tired. Like she'd been carrying this alone for far too long. I sat down slowly across from her. My pasta was cold. Everything felt cold. "Tessa," I said carefully, "what do you mean by that?" She looked down, biting her lower lip, eyes glassy. "It's not about you, if that's what you're thinking," she said quickly. "It's not like that. It's just, I can't talk to Mom about this. She doesn't see me the way you do." That hit harder than I expected. I wasn't sure what I saw in her, to be honest. She was my stepdaughter. But ever since she moved in for the week, there had been moments, quiet ones, where I caught glimpses of something deeper. Her guardedness. The way she lingered in silence. Like she was always holding something back. I'd chalked it up to growing pains. The weird territory of blended families. But now, here she was, peeling it back layer by layer. I met her last year, she said, voice softer now. At school. We were roommates first, and then it got complicated. A part of me exhaled, relieved and ashamed at the same time. She wasn't talking about me, but she was still holding on to something raw. She graduated and moved away, she continued. Said she couldn't handle the secrecy anymore. That I needed to come out, stop hiding, tell my family. But I couldn't. Not with Mom the way she is. I nodded, slowly starting to understand. Mel, her mother, is loving, yes. But she's also stubborn. Structured. The type who makes lists for everything and sticks to them. That includes her expectations of family. Of who her daughter is supposed to be. She still thinks I'll marry some guy, settle down, have kids in the suburbs, Tessa said. I let her believe it. It's easier. Until now. I could feel the weight in her voice, the years of pretending, of molding herself into someone she wasn't just to keep the peace. I'd only been part of this family for a year, but in that moment, I realized how far apart they'd always been, even when they were under the same roof. You don't have to tell her tonight, I said carefully. But you don't have to carry this alone either. She looked up then, and something in her face cracked. Not weakness, relief. Like just saying it out loud was the first real breath she'd taken in months. I thought you might hate me for it, she whispered. Hate you? I said. No. I just wish I'd known sooner what you were dealing with. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was full of everything unspoken. All the years of pretending, the pressure, the fear. She wasn't just coming out to me. She was showing me who she really was for the first time. But then she looked past me, toward the front door. Wait, is that Mom's car? My heart jumped. She wasn't supposed to be home for another hour. Tessa's eyes widened in panic. I'm not ready. Neither was I. The headlights flooded the driveway, washing the kitchen wall in a white-blue glow. Tessa's breath caught in her throat. I stood up too fast, the chair scraping sharply against the tile. Mel wasn't supposed to be home for another hour. I can't talk to her. Not now, Tessa whispered, her face pale. I looked at the door, then back at her. Go upstairs. I'll stall her. She hesitated, eyes wide like a trapped animal. Then she bolted, footsteps quick and quiet on the stairs. By the time Mel walked in, purse slung over her shoulder and phone still pressed to her ear, I was at the sink pretending to rinse a plate. My heart was still racing, and not just from the surprise. It was the weight of everything that had just happened. What Tessa told me. What it meant. And what would happen if Mel found out the wrong way? Hey, she said, ending the call. You're still up. Yeah, I said casually. Just got back not long ago. Thought I'd clean up a bit. She looked around, frowning slightly. Is Tessa asleep? I nodded. She was tired. Took a shower and went to bed. Mel gave a small sigh and dropped her bag onto a chair. I feel like I haven't seen her at all this week. Every time I'm home, she's locked in her room or gone. I don't know what's going on with her. I stayed quiet. Then she added, "Do you think she's okay?" There it was, the edge of concern in her voice. Genuine, but unsure how to reach her daughter. Mel loved Tessa, no doubt. But she had a hard time seeing her as anything other than the little girl she raised. I'd seen that tension from the outside, Mel trying to be close, Tessa pulling away, but now I knew it ran deeper than I thought. "She's carrying a lot right now," I said carefully. Mel gave me a sharp look. "Did she tell you something?" I hesitated. "She just needs some space. She'll talk to you when she's ready." Mel didn't like that answer. She crossed her arms, defensive. "I'm her mother, I should know what's going on. If something's wrong, she should come to me." "Maybe she doesn't think she can," I said, instantly regretting the words as they left my mouth. The silence was immediate and heavy. Mel stared at me like I'd crossed a line. Maybe I had. But I couldn't unsee the pain in Tessa's face, the way she looked when she said, "She doesn't see me the way you do." Mel finally spoke. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" Before I could answer, we both heard a creak on the stairs. Tessa. She was standing there, hoodie zipped up to her neck, face pale but steady. "Mom," she said, voice clear but trembling, "can we talk?" Mel blinked, surprised. "Now?" Tessa nodded. "Yeah. Now." And just like that, the night turned. The thing we'd been avoiding was suddenly standing in front of us. The secret. The tension. The storm. I watched as they moved into the living room, voices low but rising steadily. I couldn't make out every word, but I caught pieces. "What do you mean, since when? You never asked who I really am. This isn't about who I asked you to be." And then I heard Mel say it, "Did he know?" I couldn't breathe. Mel's voice rose over the hum of the fridge. "You told him before me?" Tessa stood still, like she'd been bracing for this moment her entire life. "Because I knew you'd react like this." Mel looked at her like she didn't recognize the person in front of her. "I'm your mother, Tessa. You think I don't have a right to know something this important? Something this huge?" Tessa flinched, but didn't back down. "It's not about you, Mom. This is my life. My identity." I told him because he actually listens. The words cut the air like glass. I felt like I was watching two people unravel at the seams, years of tension snapping loose in seconds. I wanted to step in, calm things down, but I knew better. This wasn't my fight to lead. It was theirs. And it had been waiting to happen for a long time. Mel shook her head, pacing like she needed to move or explode. "So what, you're just going to rewrite everything we planned? The life you've been working for? All the sacrifices I made?" Tessa laughed bitterly. "There it is. It's always about what you gave up. You never ask what I wanted. I wanted you to be happy." Mel snapped. "No, you wanted me to be safe. Straight. Polite. Digestible. Something you could explain to your friends at brunch." Tessa's voice cracked on the last word, but she didn't stop. "I loved someone, Mom. And I lost her because I was too afraid to tell you. Because I knew you'd look at me like this, like I'm broken." Mel went silent, eyes wet but angry. Her jaw clenched like she was holding back something sharp. Then she turned to me. "And you. You knew. You let me go on and on about her future, her plans, and you just sat there?" I stepped forward slowly. "Mel, I didn't let anything happen. Tessa trusted me. She needed someone to talk to. I didn't tell you because it wasn't my place. Not your place, she echoed, voice shaking. You're her stepfather. You live in my house. And you thought it was okay to keep secrets from me? It wasn't about keeping secrets, I said, struggling to stay calm. It was about protecting her. She was scared. Tessa spoke again, quieter now. He didn't push me. He didn't judge me. He just listened. That's all I ever wanted from you. Mel's shoulders dropped. For the first time all night, she looked tired. Not angry. Just exhausted. And then came the silence. That thick, suffocating kind that fills the space between people when there's nothing left to say, but everything still left to feel. I need some air, Mel whispered. She grabbed her keys and left the door swinging behind her. Tessa sat down hard on the couch, burying her face in her hands. I didn't move right away. I just watched the front door, half expecting it to burst open again. But it didn't. You okay? I asked gently. Tessa shook her head without looking up. No. But I think, maybe for the first time, I will be. And then her phone buzzed. A name flashed on the screen. Her ex. Tessa stared at it, frozen. I haven't heard from her in 6 months. The phone kept buzzing. What are you going to do? I asked. She looked at me, tears in her eyes, and whispered, I think I need to answer. Tessa's hand hovered over the phone, the screen still glowing with her ex's name. She didn't answer. Not yet. She just stared at it like it held all the weight of the past year in one vibration. Then she stood, walked past me without a word, and stepped outside onto the porch. I let her go. Some decisions had to be made alone. I sat there, alone in the quiet, the tension from the fight still clinging to the walls. And that's when I noticed it, Mel's laptop, open on the dining table. The screen still active. That wasn't like her. She was meticulous about closing everything, logging out, double-checking. It's not something I would have normally touched, but something felt off. Maybe it was instinct. Or maybe I was looking for something to distract me from the train wreck we'd just survived. What I saw made my stomach turn. Her email was open. And there, in bold letters, was a thread with a subject line that stopped me cold. Legal inquiry, stepdaughter guardianship and inheritance question. I clicked. And just like that, everything I thought I knew about what was happening in our family changed. The emails went back several weeks. Mel had been in contact with a family lawyer. Not about the house. Not about estate planning. But about whether she could cut Tessa out of her financial will and reassign legal power to someone else. Whether she could revoke guardianship retroactively due to what she described as recent behavioral concerns and deception. She had already drawn up documents. She was trying to erase her. I sat there, hands shaking, heart pounding. This wasn't just about a mother struggling to accept her daughter's identity. This was about control. Power. Mel had already decided she was losing Tessa, and she was preparing to punish her for it. The front door creaked open. I shut the laptop and turned just as Tessa stepped back inside, clutching her phone tightly. She didn't answer, she said. Just sent a text. She's in town. I nodded slowly, still numb from what I'd just read. She said she might be able to meet tomorrow, Tessa added. I don't even know what I'd say to her. I swallowed hard. Tessa, we need to talk. About your mom. Her face tightened. What now? I hesitated, unsure if telling her was the right move. But she deserved the truth, after everything. I saw her email, I said. She's been talking to a lawyer. About cutting you out. Tessa froze. What? She's trying to change her will. Reassign legal authority. She's framing it like you're unstable. Like you're a threat to the family. Tessa didn't speak. She just stared at me, the air draining from her face. She wouldn't do that. I didn't think so either. She took a step back, like the floor had shifted under her. This isn't just about who I love. She wants to erase me. I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. No. I need to go. I need to see her. Tonight. Tessa, wait, she was already moving, grabbing her keys, rage and heartbreak all tangled into one. And I knew, whatever happened next, we weren't coming back from this unchanged. I followed her. I had to. Tessa was already in the car when I caught up, engine rumbling, hands shaking on the steering wheel. I opened the passenger door and slid in. You shouldn't come, she said, eyes locked on the road. I'm not letting you do this alone. She didn't answer. She just drove. The silence between us stretched the whole ride. Streetlights flicked by in flashes. Somewhere between stoplights, I realized how quickly everything had unraveled, how something so personal had exploded into a fight for identity, belonging, and control. Mel wasn't at home. Tessa knew where she'd be, her friend's house on the other side of town. Somewhere private. Somewhere she thought no one would follow. When we got there, Mel's car was parked under a tree, dim porch light casting long shadows. Tessa didn't knock. She marched up and rang the bell. The door opened. Mel stood there, stunned, holding a glass of wine in one hand, clearly not expecting this confrontation tonight. Tessa, we need to talk, Tessa cut in, voice trembling but firm. Now. No running. No more lies. Mel looked at me behind her. You brought him? Tessa stepped inside without waiting for an invite. He's the only one who's actually treated me like a person this week. So yeah. He stays. The three of us stood in the living room, the weight of unspoken words pressing against every wall. Tessa pulled her phone from her pocket and held it out. I just got a message from her. My ex. She wants to meet tomorrow. And I'm going. Mel folded her arms. That's your decision. Damn right it is, Tessa said. But you trying to cut me out of your life with some backdoor legal trick? That's not a decision. That's betrayal. Mel paled. You read my emails? Yeah, Tessa said. And you know what? I expected anger. I expected disappointment. But I didn't expect erasure. You're not just upset. You're done with me. Mel looked at me again, searching for a lifeline. Did you put her up to this? I didn't put her up to anything, I said quietly. She told you the truth. That's all her. For once, Mel looked small. Shaken. You don't understand what it's like. To raise a child, pour your life into her future, and then wake up one day and realize you never really knew her. No, I said, stepping closer, but I know what it's like to meet someone at their worst moment and still choose to stay. That's love, Mel. Not contracts. Not control. Tessa stepped forward, voice cracking. I'm not asking you to like who I am. I'm asking you to see me. And if you can't do that, at least stop trying to destroy what's left. Mel looked like she wanted to speak, but no words came. And then, softly, she sat down. Her hands covered her face. And for the first time in days, she cried. No yelling. No accusations. Just quiet, raw grief. Tessa didn't move. Neither did I. Minutes passed. Finally, Mel looked up. I'm scared, she whispered. Not of who you are, but of losing you forever. Tessa knelt beside her. Then stopped pushing me away. They didn't hug. Not yet. But they sat there, shoulder to shoulder, breathing the same air for the first time in what felt like years. Later, in the car, Tessa stared at the sky. Do you think she meant it? Yeah, I said. I think it just took her a while to find the words. She smiled faintly, then turned to me. I'm meeting her tomorrow. You don't have to come. I looked at her. You sure? She nodded. This part, I think I need to do on my own. And just as I was about to step out, she added, oh, and there's something else I didn't tell you. Tessa met her ex the next day. She told her everything, about the fight, the tears, the truth finally said out loud. And for the first time in a long time, she felt free. Not because everything was fixed, but because she finally stopped hiding. Mel didn't show up at first. But 2 days later, she knocked on Tessa's door with something simple, a photo album. One of those old-school, messy ones, filled with childhood pictures and awkward teenage moments. I don't know how to be the mom you need, she said, but I still want to try. That moment wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was real. And that was enough. Tessa stayed a few more days before heading back to campus. She didn't take everything with her. Just enough. Maybe that was her way of saying she'd be back. As for me, I learned that love, the real love, isn't about fixing people. It's about holding space when they finally show you who they really are. It's not always easy. It's not always clean. But it's honest. And honesty has a way of healing what silence only ever made worse.